Hello and welcome back to the garden and back to a new project. And no, it's not this bench. This has mainly been put here so I've got somewhere to sit and enjoy what I've already done. That side, that view, which you'll see in a moment, that's the bog garden in the pond. I had some help laying these paving slabs. It's not something I can do on my own, they're too heavy. But I did help to put the base down, the hard core, and then spread the gravel around. We didn't have enough gravel, so we need to get some more to finish this mini project off. What you see behind this bankside is weed filled. There's nothing in here that we can actually save other than a few rhododendrons at the top. But this is a project for next spring. Over the autumn and the winter, I'll cover all of this with tarpaulin to kill the weeds, and hopefully by next spring I can plant up this bankside border. But the new project is this way on, so let me turn you around and I'll show you what I intend to do this spring. So for anyone that hasn't watched any of my earlier videos, this flat area is a bog garden, or it will be a bog garden. It was such a big area to plant up, I decided to put a path through the middle. Last winter I added the pond, I dug that out by hand, tampered down the clay because the soil here is dreadful. It's very much like a clay-like soil and it retained water, and I'm really delighted with how all of this has worked out. So the intention is to do the same on this side, and that's this spring's project. To give you a brief summary of what I intend to do with this area, I'm creating a berm around the side because it's a flat area and it's quite featureless. And I'm creating this berm with the grass sections that were removed from the white garden last year when I started to gravel the white garden. I saved everything, kept it all, the grass under tarpaulins, and it's all broken down now, and it will give me some lovely soil to plant into, because obviously the rest of the ground is pretty bad. It's quite, as I said, boggy earth, very clay, and it's not very good for plants. Some plants thrive, most don't. So at least on the berm, I've got some areas of really good soil. The water feature, and I don't intend to dig out another pond. Been there, done that, I'm not going to do that again by hand. So the water feature is a small fire pit, which I'm going to probably seal to keep the water from going rusty. I'll try it out first, see how it copes with water, see what the condition of the water is before I add any plants. But that will be the water feature, and I'll bury that into the bog garden so it's level with the ground, because it looks too contemporary above ground. It's not quite the look that I've got on the other side, so I'll do that. I've got a path, or at least I will have a path. These have just been placed to give me an idea, because I like to visually see how things are going to work out. I can plan so much on paper, but I must admit I like to be able to see things, to feel them, to see how they're going to look in the actual space before I start. So they will have to be taken up and they will be placed on proper hardcore. And then the planting will come further on down the line. So I think that's basically it. Oh yeah, and I've got a lot of sandstone which I can make features with around the water feature. So that's the plan for the next couple of weeks. But for now, I've got some nice plants to add to the pond area on the other side, and also to the bog garden just around the bottom, just behind the camera, which I've started to plant up end of last year, I think it was. Now the first plant that I'm adding today around the pond are primulas. Now these are Candelabra primulas, which I have dug out from the white garden, the Postford white. It's a lovely example of a primula. They've been sitting in water for a couple of weeks. That's how well they do in very wet, boggy ground. The soil down here is quite impoverished, so I'm just adding a little bit of this mixture of farmyard manure and compost, just so they get off to a good start. Not that I think they need it. Just mix that in the bottom of the planting hole. I'm going to add them in the front here, next to these stones. Now I already have them around here. probably see them around this stone. And I tried them out last year and I liked the effect, so I thought this year I'm going to add some more. Because I can see at least 3 individual plants in here, I'm going to split it before I plant it. See if I can get right down the middle. Always full of mud working in the bog garden. But there's one, even though it's full of mud. And I could possibly even split this one again because I can see another separate rosette, at least one more. But I think I'll leave it for this year and just plant that one. Just adding a little bit of this manure compost. And I'll just plant that in that position. And then next to the path, oh, so much mud. Next to the path, I'll plant this other section. So you might ask yourself, what's the difference between these Candelabra primulas and the other primulas that you plant in containers and in borders in early spring? These ones are more of a reliable perennial. They come back for me every year and have done for about 10 years now. They have several whorls of flowers on the stem and they're stacked one on top of the other, sometimes up to 5 separate whorls of flowers. Gorgeous. And they come in quite a few different colours, not just white, apple blossom, which is a pale pink, and they come in oranges, yellows, reds. There's so many different types, varieties within the species. There's lots of them. And as long as you give them moist ground, they'll come back every year without hesitation. If you want more of them, just allow them to self-seed. That's what I do. And I've got many more down the bottom of the bog garden. These happen to be all white because I've dug them out of the white garden. But I'm going to plant the other side up the same too. So the next 2 plants that I want to add are ferns. Machusia struthiopteris. That is one heck of a name, but it's commonly known as the shuttlecock fern. I think sometimes I've seen it named as the ostrich fern. And I've dug these out from elsewhere in the garden. I had them at the very top of the steps, which I thought was a good area to plant them. I got it totally wrong. It was too dry. They do like to have a very wet, clay-like, moist soil. Soil that doesn't dry out, basically. So if you have irrigation, that's fine, as long as you keep them well watered. They're deciduous. They die back every year. Given the right conditions, they can run. They do have a tendency to do that if they have optimum conditions. I don't mind. I like to think of it more as naturalising. It's such a pretty fern rather than a fern that you have to be wary of. Size-wise for the ferns, they can grow anything from 1 metre to 1.5 metres, 3 to 5 feet. Spread, well, that could be anything. anything from 6 to 8 feet, depending if they have ideal conditions where they will just run, and that run underneath the ground by rhizomes. But one thing to note, as I said, it's more of a naturalising fern. It does have the award of garden merit from the RHS. So that to me is what I always look for when I add plants to the garden. If it runs, it runs. I'll just split them, dig them up and move them somewhere else. Just had to stop the camera and run to get some help to reposition this stone. Didn't like where it landed. Anyhow, the plant that I want to add today in this new area is this one, and it's a Rheum palmatum, commonly known as the Chinese rhubarb or ornamental rhubarb. And it's very much a stunning architectural plant, big leafed plant. I added 2 last year on the other side here. And you can see how much in 1 year that it's grown. They're deciduous, dies back to the ground every year. And this one has been growing for the last month because we've had quite a mild winter. And you can see the size that it's getting compared to this one. This is what this one was like last year. I've got one on the other side. When they first open, they have lovely red leaves. You can see the underneath here, the difference in the colour. The whole leaf is that colour initially, and then they turn brown, but the undersides do stay that lovely red colour. So in the wind you can see the colour underneath, very pretty. Size-wise, 1.5 metres to 2.5 metres, 4 to 8 feet in height and spread. Late spring, early summer, it has tall cerise flowers. Didn't have them last year, so I'm hopeful this year on these 2 on this side that I'll get some flowering. Likes to sit in a moist soil. Doesn't like to dry out. It's obviously got a lot of leaf cover there, and the bigger they get, the more moisture that they'll actually need. So you wouldn't want to plant it anywhere that's in a hot midday sun. I would say sun to partial shade, pretty much like the spot that I've got here. So hopefully in this boggy ground, it should do well. Just one point to note as well, it demands space. You don't really want to underplant it too much. I think it spoils the look of the plant. That's the whole point of adding these architectural plants. Give them room to grow. And that's what I'm going to try and do here. So I better get on with it. So the last plants that I'm adding today are astilbes, and I'm becoming quite a collector of these now, mainly because I have the right conditions for them, and it's one of the few plants that work down here. This is a lovely variety, lovely specimen called To Have and To Hold, and it has a lovely tall pink flower in early summer. Now, if you want to add astilbes, you need to plant them in sun to partial shade. Any ground that doesn't dry out, they hate to dry out. They won't flower and you won't have the best out of them if you do plant them somewhere like that. You could add them to pots as long as you kept the pot well watered at all times. I don't have that problem with having awful wet clay soil down here. I bought these last autumn, I think leading into winter, when the garden centre was selling off a lot of plants as they do heading towards Christmas. And I got this one, which was a lovely named variety, but I also got a couple of unnamed varieties, and all I know is that they're actually pink flowers. This one suffered a little bit frost damage, but hopefully it should recover. So I'm going to add them in a little clump here. I've got pink ones opposite on the other side, on the other border, and I've got drifts further down of other varieties of astilbes. And I'm becoming quite a collector of them now, mainly because they suit the conditions down here. around them, what you can see, that is the Himalayan primula, Primula florindi. Beautiful, tall, yellow, nodding flowers in the summer, which is quite rare for a primula to flower in the summer months. And it has a gorgeous perfume, really nice smelling primula. And from 3 plants, they've self-seeded right through here on both sides. I didn't plant any on that side. The seeds are just everywhere, plus they're all through the gravel path. But never mind, it's a nice thing to have, to be able to pick them out and use them. But that's it for today. I'll give you a quick view of what I've planted today, and also a sequence of what's flowering here on the 2nd of May. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon.